Hey you guys, it's Riley here again with Learn With Me, and I'm here to show you how to make a sourdough starter. Let's get to it. Alright, starting off, this is my current starter that I have, and before you get too worried about this science-looking experiment, it's nothing too big to be worried about. Like you see these bubbles here, this is exactly what you're looking for like a long-term like goal when it comes to this type of stuff. So I've kind of gotten to the point where it's like whenever I don't have anything immediate that I'm going to use my starter on, I kind of put it in the fridge, and it kind of helps keep those kind of bubbles and gases kind of forming there, but it kind of keeps it slow and keeps it from going bad and molding on the inside. But I'll kind of show you how I get started with this process. Now, if you're going to start from scratch, there's really not much you can really do to complicate it. It's just more that this process is going to take you about 3 to 4 days minimum, and it's going to involve like aggressive feedings and aggressive like discarding if you want like results a lot faster than normal. Overall, you can kind of just take your time, and in regards to feedings and discarding, you'll probably be okay with just doing it once a day for just a week, and then having a good starter that's strong enough to really do what you need it to do in your recipes. But yeah, I would give you like an exact recipe to kind of go by, but if you really want a recipe, I would suggest you just kind of look one up. But I'm gonna just kind of show you just what I kind of do when I want to start one. And if you guys have any suggestions or recommendations, feel free to, send them over my way. Otherwise, like, this is what's been working for me, and I feel like if I get too detailed with this, then you guys will get too discouraged, or anyone that wants to get into baking and stuff like that will get too discouraged to get started. And this process is really easy, and it's a lot easier than a lot of people lead you to believe. And so I'm just gonna kind of just go touch and go with it. And if you guys have any questions or anything, leave any comments or anything, and I'll be sure to answer you as quickly as I can. But I want you guys to really get started in this, and then later on, when in other videos and future videos, I can maybe show you some more tips and some other recipes that you can do with it. Okay, to get started, you're gonna need a jar, some flour, and some water. Now, when you get a jar, I prefer an open or like a very wide open mouth jar, because when I'm feeding it later on and stuff like that, or even just adding flour, it just makes it a lot easier when you can fit your measuring cup inside. It's not that you even need it to fit inside. You just want to make it easier for the flour to go in and not make a mess every time you're getting involved with this. Because sometimes I'm trying to get my starter fed on my way out of the door. So it would help a lot if I'm not dropping flour everywhere and giving myself like more things to do as I'm in a rush whenever I do tend to need to feed my starter. But yeah, so to start off, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna probably, if I'm gonna give you like a general guideline to go by, I'm gonna go like a 3-to-1 ratio, where it's like 3 cups of flour, and of course these aren't cups. This is like a third of a cup, so this is probably 1 full cup. And then, oops, 1/3 of a cup of water. Now, the way you'll see this is that I'm gonna try to mix this up, and that's why I told you it's like I'm gonna kind of go touch and go with this. Is that I'm gonna mix this up and just kind of go from here, and I'll show you the consistency I'm really looking for, as opposed to whether or not this method will work or not. So stay tuned. Okay, after mixing it up, my mixture looks a little bit like this. And as you can see, it's a bit dry, and if you ask me, it needs a bit more water. So I'm gonna add a little bit here. And this is another reason why I say this recipe is a bit more touch and go than you would think, as I could tell you the exact measurements and stuff like that, but sometimes like you just kind of need to play with a little bit of it and just kind of experiment and see where you go from there. Alright, I added a little bit more water, but this is really what you're going for. It's kind of sticky, kind of mushy, but it's not too wet. Because if you look at it, it's just dripping, but it's sticky. That's really what you want. That's what you're going for when you make a sourdough. It's like a bit of a stickiness. And it's okay if you don't get this going perfectly. You can kind of make it work with it being too wet. It's just not preferred. But like I said, you'll figure this out, and this is one of those recipes that you can kind of figure it out. But like the more and more you get used to it, the better it is, and the better you get more comfortable with it. So that's really it for making the sourdough starter. But after you get it done, then you want to get a sheet, like a coffee filter or a paper towel and a rubber band, and put it over the top. All right, well, this is what it will look like after I've put the coffee filter over the top. And this is to keep bugs out as your yeast is like developing and eating like your bacteria in here is eating and forming these gases like I showed you before. But yeah, this is just what you have, and you're gonna let this sit, not in a warm place or anything, just in room temperature for about I don't know, anywhere between 6 to 12 hours. You just kind of you're looking for like some bubble development, kind of like how this one had some there. But you're gonna notice bigger bubbles and more bubbles as it goes, but you're looking for some development. And then after that 6 to 12 hour period, you want to discard a little bit of it, add a little bit more water, and add a little bit more flour. Now, how much are you gonna add? It just kind of depends. Like I said, the goal is to keep this sticky, and the discarding portion of this allows you to keep this somewhat fresh. Like, it doesn't completely start this process over, but it also doesn't allow mold to grow, because you're gonna want to discard a little bit. And whenever I discard maybe a third to a half of the portions, and then add a little bit of flour, add a little bit of water back, and usually it kind of doubles in size about like a day or two later. But that's when you've got this really going. So I would recommend that you kind of keep discarding this maybe once a day, every day for about 3 or 4 days in a row. And if you want to kind of get this to kind of develop faster, I would say discard it in the morning and discard it in the afternoon. And like right before you go to bed. And of course, that, like I said, when I discard, I mean pour it out, maybe into the trash, or like this somewhere else. Like, once you get this actually developed, when you discard, you can pour, like, your discard can actually go into recipes. And that's actually one of the cooler things that I like about this type of stuff, is that, like, on days where I'm like, I'm gonna make banana bread, I'm gonna make biscuits, I'm gonna make all this different types of stuff, I'll just keep it going. And if this stuff's aggressive enough, like, as I'm feeding it and working on the other recipes, it's building back up to the point where I can knock out like 3 or 4 recipes over like a 4 to 6 hour time frame while cleaning the kitchen, doing laundry, doing all types of things. So yeah, this is what you're really looking at when it comes to this type of thing. But I'm going to show you how to necessarily discard here with the other one I showed you at the beginning in a sec. All right, we're back. This is the old one. Now, this one has been sitting in my fridge for about 3 to 4 days now, because once you get your sourdough really going, you can let it sit. Like you don't want to let it sit outside the fridge too long, or else mold will develop. So if you don't have time to really get to it and get time to discard it or to make anything, you can just set it in your fridge for a couple days until you're able to really make the adjustments that you need to. Now, when I'm making a discard, I'm just gonna pour out, like I said, about 1/3 to half of it, and there's no real maximum or minimum that you're gonna do, because what you're really aiming to do is to feed the bacteria that's involved in here. I will say there's one thing about doing putting your sourdough starter in the fridge that develops kind of like a crust at the top. So if you want to get rid of that you can kind of spend your efforts doing that. But this is what it kind of looks like right now. Pretty cool. But yeah, so you can either use this for a recipe or you can throw it away. It's pretty late here right now and I don't really feel like cooking, so I'm gonna just throw this away for the moment, but stay tuned. In the future I might show you a recipe or two with it. And as you can see, just from this discard, you can see just how many bubbles are forming. Like, this is what really helps out with cooking and makes your breads and stuff like that just very airy. Oh, look at that, that's beautiful. Yeah, be careful smelling it, because once it gets to that point, it'll smell like a good ripe, like milky kind of smell. And it's like, when I was first starting this, I was really excited about this, and I was like, man, this is exactly the smell I went for. But you know, my wife didn't really find the smell that appealing. So just for warning, just if you start smelling it almost smell like a ripe smell, then you're probably on the right track. As long as you don't see any mold, you're doing great. But like, look at all these bubbles and stuff. Like, this is great. This is what you want as a final product, of course. But yeah, so when it comes to this, kind of pour a little water in there. And I like to pour water in first to kind of help get it like almost soupy. Then you want to add your flour. And this is what I was talking about as far as like having a wide mouth opening as opposed to a smaller opening, because when you add your flour, look at that, that just went everywhere. Ugh. But no harm, no foul. I was already planning on cleaning. So I added some flour and some water. And like I said, you'll know based off of that those previous instructions whether or not it works. You have enough flour or not, because the mixture will be sticky and it'll be like a bit like a wet dough. Like, you wouldn't want to touch this because this would get all over your hands and everything. But like I said, you want it to be at least somewhat sticky. I feel like in this process I add more flour than I do water, just if you want a frame of reference for this type of procedure. All right, I think I'm starting to feel like, and that's another thing that I notice when I am getting really close to it being ready, is that it gets a bit tougher to turn and stuff like that. And this is what I'm talking about right here. You see that? That's exactly the stickiness I want. And this will be just sticky enough and just strong enough that the gases can form without actually like necessarily pushing through the medium itself. and it'll be able to lock those in like 6 to 8 hours. Like this could be like something really good that I could use to make some banana bread or something. But, and I usually like to put a line on there just so I know where it starts. And that you can do that, but you don't have to. But typically, if you have a really aggressive like sourdough, it'll go from like right here to like right here. And if you're like really aggressive and you've been like feeding it like twice a day and discarding it twice a day, then it could even go as high as here. I've come back like the next mornings after doing stuff and just noticed that like it's overflowing the thing. So you got to make sure that and that's another thing, you should make sure that when you're filling it, like do not fill it more than maybe a third or a little bit under halfway, because if you do it more, then when the gases expand and it decides to double its height, it could overflow, and then that'd be a whole bunch to clean up, and I know that would make me pretty pissed off in the morning. But yeah, that's making sourdough. It's nothing too crazy or anything, but it's definitely something that it's definitely something that's worth giving a shot. So, like I said, if you guys have any recommendations or anything, feel free to send them over. Feel free to comment and please like and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate you guys showing your support, and really helps me kind of keep tabs on what you guys like and what I need to like elaborate more on, because I want to really get into showing you guys all the different things that I like to do, and like, hey, maybe you guys know something that I don't know, and I'm more than okay with taking like questions, recommendations, all types of suggestions for this type of thing. So yeah, just let me know if you guys have any suggestions or anything, or have anything you want me to like try to show you. And other than that, you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay breezy.